Casi podría... Ahora. Hi, good morning. Lars. Good morning, everybody. Hello. So I am Izaskun Lacunza. I'm the Director General of the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology, your host today. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to wait a few seconds for everybody to be seated. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to Madrid. Welcome to our home, the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology. It's amazing to see very good friends among the audience for 20 years already. It's great to see you again. And it's difficult for us to explain the pride we take in being the host of the public launch of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. So thank you very much for coming. Many of you will know us very much, the Foundation, but allow me a few minutes to explain who we are and why we are here. So the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology depends on the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities here in Spain. We are a team of 150 people, and we have recently approved our new strategic plan, and we are going to be working in 4 main objectives for the next 3 years. The first one is science communication and science outreach. We want to make sure that Spanish society keeps trusting in science, and this is a huge challenge in these misinformation times, and at the same time is crucial if we want science to occupy the space it deserves in the public debate. We, of course, work very much in open science as well, and this is the reason why we are here today. We understand public scientific knowledge as a public good, and we truly believe that it should be publicly available for everybody. And the other way around, we understand that the scientific process can be much more open, inclusive, and democratic. And in the last years, we've been working very much as well in Science for Policy. We want to foster mechanisms for scientific knowledge to inform public policies much more than what it happens today in Spain and in the world. And if you think about it, the 3 objectives are very much related, and they need from each other and contribute somehow to this idea of science for democracy that we want to contribute to. What we do cannot be understood without the European context and the international context. Much of who we are and how we understand science is very much thanks to the conversations and the projects and the policy alignment that we are trying to do with the European Commission, the Europe, and the rest of member states. So we understand this launch, for us this launch, the European Diamond Capacity Hub, is a milestone in our long journey towards open science in the Foundation. I mean, if somebody would have told us in 2007, when we started working in what used to be open access at that moment, that we would be hosting a European hub for non-for-profit publications, we would be amazed and we wouldn't believe our eyes. Let me come back a little bit to 2007. When we started working in open access, we identified in Spain that the non-for-profit university presses, scholarly communications, journals, so what we used to call the Spanish journals, that ecosystem was a little bit uncertain. We were calculating that there was around in between 2,000 and 3,000 journals of this kind in Spain, but the quality of those journals was very much uncertain. We didn't really know what we had in our hands. And that's why we decided to launch an evaluation call in which we tried to identify which of those journals had the necessary quality to be recognized. And of course, we had in mind to help them improve and to move that ecosystem that was a little bit uncertain to a much more solid one. At that time, as I said, our estimation was that we had around 3,000 journals in the country, and we had, let me review the numbers, 270 journals applied to the first call, in which we were applying and evaluating both editorial criteria but also scientific criteria. Out of those 275 journals, only 33 were approved. The earthquake in the country was amazing. I mean, many people was very angry with us. And now that so much time has passed, we can tell we were discussing issues such as the journals should have peer review. the journals should publish when they are supposed to be published. I mean, they were very basic criteria that are by default criteria at the moment, but we were at that state in the moment. After 18 years, the landscape has radically changed. I mean, not only thanks to the foundation, but thanks to the efforts of all the publishers in the country. And the FECYT recognizes around 630 journals already. So we have a very solid ecosystem of non-for-profit journals in the country that are meeting very strong criteria, because throughout the years, of course, we have sophisticated our evaluations. We have included open science criteria and so on. So now we know what we have in the country, and we have an ecosystem of journals that are very much competitive. So the next step, of course, would be the European Diamond Capacity Hub, to participate there, of course. We understand this effort as a commitment of the institutions to offer a very necessary service beyond the long life of the European projects. And we think this is a very good next step, not to depend so much on the European projects, but to work together in something solid and stable. Our commitment is going to be twofold. When I say our, is FECYT, but also Spain in a way. So we want to make sure that Spain is very active in the hub, because of many reasons, of course, because we have committed with the Council Conclusions to promote open science, because we want to adhere to the UNESCO recommendations, and also because it is very much at the core of our own strategy. Spain has an open science strategy from a few years now, and this has been a huge milestone for us, because in the same table we have funders, we have evaluation agencies, we have researchers, ourselves, the ministry. So we are having a coordinated approach towards open science. And the fostering, let's say, alternative ways of publishing is at the core of our strategy. We want to make sure that we diversify the market, that there's not only one option to publish, but many others that are not for profit, and we want to take back somehow the the publishing power to the general public. So we celebrate very much this hub. We believe it's going to be fundamental for the whole community and for the open science community. I really want to thank Science Europe for pushing this, and the rest of the partners of the hub. I think it's going to be a really nice collaboration. I want to thank our open science team because of their leadership and vision. And as my friend Pilar would say, let's take back quality as a public good for everybody. So long life to the European Science Diamond Capacity Hub. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to actually welcome you in the first place of Science Europe, who is co-organizing this with FECYT, and also as in my second hat as Vice President of the Spanish National Research Council. So I will say a few things that refer basically to the work that Science Europe has been doing over the last years already, trying to promote Diamond Open Access, and then I will conclude with a few ideas from the point of view of a large research performing organization about why this is important and why this is something we need to invest on and focus on. As I was saying, Science Europe has been at the forefront of the struggle to put open access, and Diamond Open Access in particular, very much in the political agenda and very much in the discussions that the scientific community basically has, and to prioritize this as a goal for basically a research ecosystem that reflects the values in which we believe in. And the way Science Europe has done this is basically through its participation in a series of initiatives that I'm sure you are very familiar with, that go from Coalition S, in which Science Europe is a part of, up to today, and continuing with the efforts of basically making open access a top priority for the entire scientific ecosystem. Science Europe itself has its own internal task force in which it brings together experts on open access from both funding and performing organizations from Europe, trying to establish basic recommendations and guidelines that in a way should permeate. The hope is that they will basically be informing the way in which the organizations that are members of Science Europe face the entire idea of how their publication logics should move in this direction. It has been collaborating, as many of you already know, with UNESCO in trying to put this topic in the global agenda beyond the European space, and in this sense, it has been very active on the events and conferences that have been taking place globally in recent years. So in that respect, we can place the position of Science Europe in the agenda setting, on the role of making sure that the topic is discussed and that the topic is on the top of the table of the organizations that should basically move in this direction. Together with Coalition S, Operas, and the French National Research Agency, Science Europe has been active in drafting documents that aim to be useful to move in this direction, and in particular, I would like to call you to the attention to the document published in 2022 called the Action Plan for Diamond Open Access. And this is a very interesting document that has been published already in many languages, and that provides a series of reflections and a series of ideas about how can we make this Diamond Open Access community more efficient and more clearly directed in a sense of improving its quality and its standards, and to basically appear as a real alternative to the commercial publishing system that we are trying to, in a way, bring into question and to, in a way, diminish their capacity to dictate the way in which publication should actually happen. In general, we could be quite satisfied with this agenda setting function that Science Europe has taken on board, to the extent that we have seen significant developments in recent years at the political level, and particularly at the European level, in a way supporting this movement and supporting this direction, right? And I don't need to elaborate very much in detail to you. I'm sure you know very well to the very last line, the Council European Union recommendations on how to move in these directions, and the communications by the Commission on how to move towards a more open science system in which Diamond becomes the key, one key instrument, right? So, having said this, there are interesting dynamics and processes to look forward to, and in particular, Science Europe is very active in ORE, in Open Research Europe. Not that is probably the answer to all of the questions and challenges that we have ahead, but it's certainly an interesting experiment that I think will be very much supported. In particular, many member organizations of South Europe have explicitly supported ORE and its implementation and development, and just recently a statement was published in this direction, not only supporting ORE, but also committing efforts and resources to make ORE a reality. So in this sense, I think that it's quite clear that not only all of you here, but the member organizations that are part of Science Europe coincide in the need to move in this direction. So this is what I wanted to tell you with my hat as Vice President of Science Europe. I want to say to you, though, a few things also with my other hat, which is the Vice President of a large research performing organization, which of course goes in line with everything I just said, but brings into the discussion a few more nuances and a few more complexities, let's say, to the conversation. Just to say one thing, the Spanish National Research Council is the largest scientific performing organization in Spain. We are about 16,000 people working in over 125 research institutes all over the country, covering all areas of science. Just to give you an idea that we are a very complex organization that is very much driven by the purpose and the goal of producing knowledge, right? And knowledge that is useful to our societies, obviously. But basically, our constituency are researchers and technicians. And here's where I come with my first message from a research performing organization. If we want open science to be a cause that is embraced by scientific communities, we must make a very clear effort to transmit the message to these communities, to explain to them why this is a fundamental move, why we need to move from the current situation to one in which knowledge produced by scientific organizations is freely available to all. And we should not take for granted the argument that scientists are aware of this need, that they have integrated, that they have internalized in their daily functioning the need to move towards open access, because they have not. There is still a long way to go in this direction. We need to explain to scientists why the current situation is producing significant numbers of negative side effects, negative externalities, we could even say, for society at large, but for scientific communities in particular. And beyond the explaining why open science is important, we also need to explain to them how can they challenge the current system in which the structure of incentives are very clearly established for them, right? Published in top journals. Don't worry where these journals are published, because that's not your main concern. Your main concern is how can you get a top-tier paper that will allow you to promote, that will allow you to attract funding, that will put you, among the top 10 published scientists, right? And these are the structures of incentives that are put in front of our scientists today. And unless we are able to come with an alternative model, with an alternative system to tell them that the most important is not to have 350 publications with 3 billion citations. Until we can explain to them that what they do must be measured in different ways, with different parameters, and that publications per se, or citations per se, are only one element into a much broader dimension of topics that we are going to consider as important outputs of the research, we will have made relatively limited progress in this direction. So, bottom line, my final message with my second hat is, let's work very, very closely with research performing organizations. I understand very well that funding organizations are key, because they will be conditioning and determining what do we want from our researchers when we give them money. That's fine, it's of course very important. But we need to work hand in hand with research performing organizations, and most importantly, with researchers themselves and with technicians, so that we together can actually move in the direction of changing the structures of incentives, explaining to them that the current system is actually a perverse system, one that has lost focus and is working for the interests of a few, and certainly not for the interests of societies at large. And if we manage to go in this direction, we will probably make much larger, much more significant progress than if we just set up an alternative system, but scientists and technicians are not involved, are not invested in that change. So that would be my message. And with that, I just leave you with the presenters that will tell us much more in detail about the strategies that different countries are following in this direction. Have a really good day, and thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Buenos días. It is a pleasure for me to be here today in my capacity of Secretary General of Science Europe, but also in my new capacity to be as of today, which is because I will become the chair of the Executive Committee of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. So I am very pleased to introduce this session and introduce the speakers that will give us their views from different perspectives, national, European/regional, and also global. Let me just say a few words about my specific role in all this. Javier has very kindly introduced the strong stand that Science Europe has always taken in favor of open access already in the early days for Europe, namely 2006, 2007, and especially Science Europe issued first recommendations on open access in 2012. And from then on, there's been recurrent dialogue furthering national policies on open access that became policies on open science. Spain is clearly an example of that, so is France, Austria, Netherlands, Germany, and many other countries in Europe. In fact, in the Science Europe website, there is a page where you can find all the national policies from open access and open science from Science Europe members. I would like to also make a link between what we are doing here and what we are doing at global level, and very specifically to the European context in terms of policies. Some of you may remember that back in 2016, under the Dutch presidency of the Council of the EU, there was a call to action for open science. And that was a very nice trigger for member states to start becoming more intense or more specific in promoting policies at national level in favor of open science. I believe we come a long ways away from that initial call, because the Commission, also you may remember, put in place the Open Science Policy platform that ran from 2017 to 2021, issuing a lot of recommendations from the stakeholders' point of view. And the Council of the EU in 2022 issued that very famous statement on publications moving forward to scholarly publishing models that are non-for-profit, namely pointing towards Diamond. And in 2023, the Council conclusions on research assessment, a strategic element of reform to make open science a reality. All this has to do with Diamond, because it is one sector of the open access to research publications and data that does not receive yet, doesn't have a voice as other types of publication in open access have, like the green and the gold, etc. Often, the publications in Diamond Open Access count as open access, but they are not signaled as Diamond. They are embedded in green or in other semi-quantitative methodologies. So we also must make an effort to give not only a voice to those who are engaged in Diamond open access publishing, but also to make sure that when we monitor the take-up of open access, we have Diamond open access clearly identified in the statistics and statistical level, because that will allow us to take necessary decisions to reinforce policies, to reinforce community awareness, and last but not least, retaking the words of Javier, researchers, which are our main target audience. Let's not forget about that, never ever. Finally, my comment at global level. Following the publication of the Diamond Open Access Action Plan in 2022, which was fostered by the French presidency of the Council of the EU, we have Claire Giry here with us today, we engaged in a series of European activities. This is a spin-off. The European Diamond Capacity Hub is one of the spin-off activities. But also at global level. We approached our colleagues in Latin America that have a very, today, the most advanced diamond open access landscape in that region, I think worldwide, to organize conversations at global level. That's how the first global summit was held in Toluca in 2023 in partnership with, not only with the colleagues in Latin America, but also importantly with UNESCO. And we had a representative of UNESCO yesterday in the launch of the ALMASI project, and we will have later on Anna Persic online on behalf of UNESCO. UNESCO role is very important because there are different levels of organization or disorganization in Diamond Open Access depending on the regions. And we believe that UNESCO, in following up the Open Science recommendation in 2021, offers a very nice platform for all regions at global level to come together and define ways of reinforcing each other, supporting each other, define common services, and very importantly, link with the policy decision makers at member states level so that they can also reinforce the policies towards Diamond. That will clearly honor the view of the United Nations, of many of our stakeholder organizations, that as public organizations do approach open science because science is a public good. And we need to do more to be faithful to that statement. I will stop here. Well, just one more mention, because we will have Michael Arentoft for the European to highlighting the important role that the European Commission is playing in all this evolution, not only also because of the policies on open science that they have been increasingly implemented in the framework programs for research and innovation, but also the stand they are taking in moving the Open Research Europe platform that today is managed by private organization into public hands. We have initiated this together with them 2 years ago. Now it culminated with the publication in September of a report on the advancement of scholarly publication models and how ORE has the capacity to, or the possibility to become a major platform in Europe to deposit articles almost free of charge. This is an evolution. Michael will explain more about that. But I think that what we can say is that in Europe, the maturity of the dialogue on Diamond Open Access is quite high now, and it's a perfect time to move into specific actions. And we hope that the European Diamond Capacity Hub will be one of the mechanisms that will take forward Diamond Open Access. So there's my introductory remarks. And now I am extremely pleased to welcome Claire Giry, the president of the French Research Agency, will give us their views and plans in this respect. So Claire, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I first want to thank Isakun Lacunza from FECYT for welcoming us here, and Javier Moreno Fuentes as the Vice President of Science Europe, and yourself, Lydia, for organizing this meeting. So, dear colleagues, I will tell you about the French engagement in all this process. For several years now, France has been engaged in a process of change and transformations in the ways in which scientific knowledge is disseminated and assessed, in line with an international movement driven by research communities and reinforced by UNESCO's recommendations on open science and also those of the Council of the European Union, as Lydia mentioned. In this international context, the French National Agency, ANR, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, has been committed to open science since its creation in 2005. This commitment has grown stronger over the years, and since 2019, the agency has been really fully involved in the national plan for open science that we have in France, contributing to transparency and to trust in science. Or at the initiative of the scientific community, the Jussieu call in 2017 affirmed the importance of bibliodiversity and called for preference to be given to economic models that do not involve any payment, either for authors to have their texts published or for readers to access them. In 2021, the second national plan states that France is committed to ensuring that the results of scientific research are open to all, researchers, businesses, and citizens, without hindrance, without delay, and without payment. The Diamond Open Access model, of which today's launch of the Diamond European Capacity Hub is a major step forward, is one way of achieving this. The Diamond model, which in the Assembly you're very familiar with, is a model of scholarly communication in which the results of research are freely accessible to no cost for authors or readers. The Diamond Open Access model is a means of promoting bibliodiversity and plurality of publication channels, as well as encouraging and facilitating multilingualism in science. The Diamond model enhances the visibility of journals and publications platforms run by communities of researchers. It also promotes transparent, sustainable, and cost-effective scholarly publishing practices. It's currently represented by an archipelago of 17,000 to 29,000 Diamond journals, covering all disciplines and representing a wide range of languages. According to the French Open Science Monitor, 11% of scientific publications are published in Diamond Open Access, and it's a figure that is probably underestimated. We are really following very carefully these numbers. It's very important to monitor this. In March 2022, under the French presidency of the Council of the European Union, alongside with Coalitiones, Operas, and Science Europe, ANR launched the Action Plan for Diamond Access, Open Access, right, in order to support and to develop an equitable and sustainable open access publishing model led by the scientific community. It aims to align and to develop common resources for the entire open access Diamond ecosystem, including journals and platforms. The plan is already endorsed by more than 160 institutions from Latin America, Asia, Africa, United States, Canada, and Europe, and it's available in 15 languages. Among the signatories, a large number of French stakeholders are committed: universities, research organizations, funding agencies, and Diamond infrastructures. They demonstrate the dynamism of the Diamond ecosystem in France. I'd like to emphasize the driving role played by infrastructures in this French Diamond ecosystem: Open Edition, the METOPS infrastructures, and the Mersenne Center, peer community in and episciences, as well as the Mirabel initiative for Repère network. It's an incubator for open access scientific journals. Since the launch of the action plan, ANR have also contributed to the 2 Diamond Summits, the first one in Toluca, the second one in Cape Town last December. Diamond Summits have been very important moments of mutual learning, of exchange of practices, of federating the community worldwide, of course from the European point of view, from the Latin American point of view, as Lydia said, and from other regions of the world. We all have our own sensitivities, and it's very important to have some places to have these discussions. As a conclusion of the Toluca Summit, it was decided to create an alliance for Diamond Open Access. This materialized last June by the official launch at UNESCO headquarters. It is an important step towards the development of a global coordination supported at political level. Anna Persik will tell you more about this important initiative in a few moments. Today's launch of the European Diamond Capacity Hub aims to create collective dynamics at the European level between all stakeholders to promote this model. As a chairman and CEO of ANR, I'm convinced that a funding agency has a role to play in developing the dissemination and the sharing of knowledge as part of an essential and inclusive approach. Our responsibility goes really further just funding research, which is an important step. It's also part of our responsibility. It's also to consider the ways in which the results are disseminated and the costs are involved, while ensuring that publication quality criteria are met. It's also why we're also involved in the important working groups of Science Europe that are very useful. This is why INR has decided to support Diamond at different levels to increase the synergy between several initiatives at the national level through the National Fund for Open Science, FNSO, for an amount of 850,000 euros. At the European level, the agency is pleased to contribute to 250,000 euros to the creation of the European Capacity Hub. The EDCH, the hub that we celebrate today, aims to act as a lever to increase the support for Diamond initiatives. It will build on the results of the European projects DIMNAS, Palomera and ALMASI, which was launched yesterday. The French National Research Center, CNRS, is also one of the main funders of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. INR, alongside other major funding agencies, will also support innovative publishing initiatives such as the Future Open Research Europe, ORE, to position it in the diamond landscape and to ensure a diversity of publication routes. Michael will tell more about that in a moment. The development of a cooperative and concerted approach to ensure the sustainability of the diamond model will be one of the priorities of the S-Coalition's future strategy and is also being discussed and developed with our partner Science Europe. As a conclusion, I'd like to stress that it's essential that research stakeholders, funding agencies, institutions, and organizations, in its own role, support the development of this capacity hub in order to participate in the development of an equitable, transparent, collaborative, inclusive, and research community-led publishing landscape to ensure the dissemination of knowledge as a public good. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire, for this very nice introduction, and also for the funding to the European Diamond Capacity Hub. We now continue with the views from the European Commission, and that will be an online contribution. I hope that Michael Arentoft is already connected online. Yes, I see him. Thank you. Hi, hello, Michael.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Michael Arentoft is Head of Unit of Research Infrastructures and Open Science at the Commission, and as I indicated, has a very prominent role in all these initiatives. So Michael, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Lydia. Good morning to everyone. And thank you so much for inviting me to help celebrate the launch of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. I must say, what a great evolution of work really at the European level to be able to have a service for the diamond publishing communities across Europe. This is really a milestone, I think. So, as you know, we at the European Commission, we have been very supportive of open access, well, of open science more generally for many years now. In the new European research area, in the policy agenda that we launched 4 years ago, we, but also you, have been pushing, and I believe very much have succeeded to have open science at the top of the agenda, and to have open science also prioritized really as an integral part of ERA, really as the modus operandi for how research should be done in Europe. We have been enabling open science and open access through various means. We have issued recommendations to member states. We have, of course, also been very careful in the way we have designed the policy for Horizon Europe, the way we have put provisions and requirements for open science in our funding program. And of course, very importantly also to support achievements like the European Diamond Capacity Hub, we have been given dedicated funding through the Horizon program. Now, part of the funding, as you're aware, has been directed to projects such as Operas, Diamas, Craftaway, Palomera, and of course ALMASI, which was kicked off yesterday. And I must say, all of them have really been of crucial importance to support diamond publishing across Europe, but also beyond. And as I said, crucial also for the development of this nascent European hub that we are celebrating today. So we're very pleased to see that our funding is going a very long way to enable this development of Europe-wide services. It will help overcome fragmentation. It will make diamond publishing much stronger in the sense that the hub will, we very much believe, help improve the quality of relevant services that will be offered on various aspects. In the past few years, we've been very keen to support non-profit open access scholarly publishing without author fees, and in particular community-led publishing, so emanating from the researcher communities and the research institutions. Now, of course, publishing activities of the researcher communities and the research institutions have always traditionally been an integral part of the research system and of the work of the institutions. But the point is that we are continuing to support that, of course, into the digital area. Now we do this as we truly believe that the institutional publishing activities, which include Diamond Open Access, I would say, first of all, foster transparency in scholarly publishing. It nurtures equity also in scholarly publishing. And very importantly, also, it helps enrich and it helps diversify the research publishing ecosystem. And they do that by empowering the institutions, empowering the research communities as publishers, but also as decision-making actors in the publishing ecosystem. Now, previous speakers and colleagues already referred to very important achievements and milestones. The 23 Council conclusions on the Swedish presidency, but also very much the 22 Council conclusions on the French presidency. So conclusions from the research ministers across the EU have been very important achievements and milestones. And also, of course, the 21 UNESCO recommendation on open science. So all referred to already by FECYT and Science Europe in the opening, and I'm sure Anna Pesic will also most likely refer to it. The Council conclusions very much support this line, as I said, for more transparency, for more equity in high quality scholarly publishing not only in the member states, but indeed also as part of the broader global movement in this direction. Now, to create a more transparent, a more equitable, a more balanced scholarly communication system, which is also sustainable for those supporting it financially, this requires very much systemic changes. It requires interventions at various levels. Let me mention four that I think are essential for this. First of all, it entails changes in research policy. And this includes, very importantly, the way in which researchers and research organizations are assessed. So it includes changes, it includes reforms to research assessment. Secondly, it calls for a copyright and a data regulatory framework which is fit to enable researchers to practice open science. Thirdly, it requires the availability of very robust open science infrastructures, and fourthly, it demands a continuous support for skills development, a continuous support also for cultural change in the way research is practiced. So as you probably know, we already support all of these levels of systemic changes, QUARA, ERACTION 2, the European Open Science Cloud, and of course Open Research Europe that I will come back to later. And we will stay committed to continue promoting and to continue contributing to all these changes at all these levels, we're working to not only to set up, but also to sustain whatever is necessary as enablers to make open science the norm for practicing research. I said I would come back to Aura, of course. This is a key example of where we try to lead by example. So as you know, we have set up this open access publishing platform, Open Research Europe, as our own publishing platform for the time being. We, at the time, more than 3 years ago, nearly 4 years ago, we launched and supported Aura to enable the uptake of open science practices. So, of course, immediate open access under open licenses, an open data policy, which is aligned with the FAIR principles, open peer review, and so on. And very importantly, Aura supports research transparency, research integrity, reproducibility in research. It has, as you know, an innovative publishing model, and also through all of these attributes, Aura contributes to a scholarly communication system which is more equitable. Some figures: currently, Aura hosts around 800 publications by 1,500 authors, contributions from 2,000 reviewers. There are 850 unique institutions from Europe and across the world. As you also know, it operates on a non-profit basis, and indeed it displays many elements which are characteristic of Diamond publishing services. For the time being, of course, it's directed by the European Commission as a research funder, as a research policy maker, and of course, we're not charging authors for publishing. So with all these attributes, we very much see Aura as part of the broader Diamond open access ecosystem already. As was already referred to, our plan for the future of Aura is to transform it into a collectively supported, a collectively governed publishing venue before the end of 26. So to expand the eligibility for publishing in Aura to those countries and those organizations who participate, and to embed Aura more deeply into the European research area. So we think that such a collective version of Aura, such a European transnational partnership, will help sustain the platform. It will help advance open access publishing and promote, very importantly, high quality research. Also, the fact that we are aiming at a collective governance should further ensure that Aura remains accountable to the research community and indeed to the public at large. So as already mentioned by previous speakers, the vision for this collective Aura was published in September in a scoping report. And behind the scoping report, there were a large number of research funding and performing organizations that supported it. And it aligns very well with the global movement towards equitable and open scholarly publishing. And in fact, as was also already referred to, 10 of these organizations, and I believe, although I can't see the full room, some of them present today, just signed a statement of intent, which is available on Zenodo, to support this collective version of Aura. This is very important for us. It's the first public commitment to collectively fund and govern Aura. So really, this is great news for the future of the platform. Of course, we are continuing our work with these organizations to make operational the vision. We expect to move forward in this year, in 25, with a collaboration agreement between them. And we expect that a starting point sometime in 26 for Aura to be financed and governed in its collective version. So not only by the Commission, but together with these organizations who will also support Aura. I have to say that also in this new phase of Aura, we are envisioning a much greater involvement of the research communities themselves, and to make sure that we render Aura the one of the preferred publishing venues for them. Now, relating that back to the European Diamond Capacity Hub, in this whole process, we very much also anticipate that Aura will profit significantly from the EDCH and all its services, and we intend to collaborate with the hub, of course, also in view of aligning more with Diamond Open Access principles. So having the work done by you so far as the point of departure, indeed, our expectations for the European Diamond Capacity Hub are very high for the future. You could say we anticipate it to be nothing less than I could call it a catalyst that will enable diamond publishing to flourish across Europe and indeed also beyond. So again, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Michael, for this comprehensive overview of the engagement of the European Commission in all these initiatives. If you can stay, please, on the line, because we will open a small session on question and answers. But that will be after we will hear Anna Persic from UNESCO, hopefully also connected online.
Yes, hello, I'm here. Hope you can
hear
me.
Hi, Anna. Hello. Hi, hi.
Hi,
Very happy
morning.
to see you, Anna. Thank you. So please, Anna, talk to us about from the perspective of UNESCO.
Yes, thank you. I do have a few slides that I would like to share, and I hope it would be possible to share them with you today. Would it be possible to just share the slides, please?
Yeah, I receive a signal that is possible to share, so please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, it's still disabled here. So if I could just have the possibility to share the screen, that would be great.
I see the technicians working very hard
moving around
to make that possible. In the meantime, Aina, maybe can you perhaps start with your introductory words, and then when when I receive the signal, I will invite you to share the presentation.
Okay, sounds good. So again, once again, thank you so much for the invitation. And as Michael has said, it is a milestone to see this European Diamond Capacity Hub taking shape and taking place. Diamond Open Access really is at the cornerstone of like a global transformation to open science. And it is the embodiment of the UNESCO recommendation on open science. But what I wanted to tell you a little bit, just kind of taking a step back and putting Diamond Open Access in more of a global context, and in terms of how UNESCO is thinking about Diamond in the context of open science, is really by reminding us all that, first of all, access to science, to the benefits of science, to the process of science, is a human right. So it is a human right in the declaration, the UN Declaration on Human Rights, and it is incredibly important to think about access to science also in the context of the human rights. This is even more important today because science and its achievements and its developments are really driving, enabling, shaping everyday activities, including addressing any issues at any point in the world, from local to national, regional, and global levels. So I think it is very important when we talk about Diamond not to get only lost in the details, technical details, but to really see it in a bigger picture as to what does that mean for society. As also Michael has said, and it was also very well eloquently said by the colleague from the the Science Europe in the beginning and in the opening of the day today. Another point is also that, as I said, science really cuts across all the dimensions of sustainable development. So for the United Nations, whether we talk about sustainability, environmental sustainability, social sustainability, or economic sustainability, science has a critical role to play. And again, even more important today with all the major technological advancements, disruptive energies, new and emerging technological fields, all of that is enabled and driven by science. So again, incredible importance of access to science across the world and to all of the communities who can make this progress more equitable and more fitted to the needs of different communities around the world. But we've seen that over and over, and we keep seeing that the access to science is still incredibly unequal around the world, not only between nations, but also within nations. We have communities who have more access, others who have less access. We still have science operating a little bit in an ivory tower, still seen as something that is available to a privileged few, both in terms of accessing the process of science itself and also accessing the findings of science. So through the idea of open science, and then within the open science idea, this idea also of the concept of open access to scientific publications, it really is about sharing information, scientific information, data, not only within the scientific community, but also with the rest of society. In particular, decision makers, policymakers, communities, people who on the daily basis need to make decisions based on the best available scientific information. Access to scientific information and scientific publications, of course, again, we have seen over and over, it is not equitable. And we again see a lot of differences in terms of both accessing the information that is present in different scientific journals, but also that is just available within the different institutions. So again, opening up access to information is extremely important as we move forward. Now, taking into consideration all of these different elements, in UNESCO in 2021, all the member states, 193 member states at the time, now 194, they have basically agreed to work together and set up a kind of a global legal framework, but also a visionary framework for what open science actually is. What does it contain? What are the key principles? What is the definition? Who are the actors? And what needs to be done at the global level so that open science can actually thrive? And that it can achieve this potential of fulfillment of human rights, of fulfillment of enabling environment for sustainable development, and also for peace and security. This particular dimension of peace and security is of extreme importance, particularly today, because we do see a broad geopolitical context that is changing and becoming more and more complex. And again, we see the importance of science and technology in this context more and more important. So these conversations that we increasingly have around openness, research security, protection, how do we balance all of these different issues? It is something that is becoming more and more important on the global level. And again, here, I think the important message is to say openness is the key. Openness, of course, with protection through security measures that are put in place. It has always been part of the open science concept, including in the way open science is defined in the recommendation on open science of UNESCO. So as I said, the recommendation gives a global vision of open science, a set of values and principles agreed by the different member states. And it also gives an idea of what the key actions and measures that member states are taking can take place. So within the definition of open science, which is defined very broadly in the recommendation, we have open science to scientific knowledge, open access to scientific knowledge, which comprises publications, but also data, open educational resources, software and source code, and also open hardware. We have open science infrastructures, which is another kind of pillar of open science. Open engagement of societal actors through citizen science, scientific volunteering, and other ways of engaging society. And then open dialogue with other knowledge systems, including knowledge systems of indigenous peoples, marginalized scholars, and local communities. In the context of open scientific knowledge, the idea really is that it is knowledge which is provided to all actors immediately or as quick as possible, independently of what their status is, and free of charge. And this is particularly underlined in the recommendation when we talk about and define, in a way, open access to scholarly publishing. The idea really is that the scientific publications, which include journal articles, books, research reports, conference papers, and others, as well as the scientific outputs which are related to publications, that they need to be accessible to all without charges, and also on platforms which are accessible, non-commercial, and accessible to all. So if we have a closer look at what the recommendation says about scholarly publishing, it actually says that the paywall method of publication, where immediate access to scientific publication is only granted in exchange for payment, is not aligned with the present recommendation. So the idea really that was put forward very, very clearly by member states is that Diamond, in a way, is really the cornerstone and the way forward when it comes to scholarly publishing in the context of open science. In terms of the different actions that the member states have agreed upon in the recommendation and that are relevant for Diamond Open Access, is of course encouraging bibliodiversity, and we've heard about the importance of bibliodiversity also in the opening speeches, encouraging multilingualism, and ensuring diversity, open, transparent, and equitable access, including through supporting non-commercial publishing models and collaborative publishing models with no APCs or BPCs. So really, the emphasis is on open access, which is openly available and free of charge for both the authors and readers. In a nutshell, what the recommendation says, without that necessarily defining Diamond Open Access as such, is that it aligns with the entire idea of what Diamond Open Access is. So that is one of the reasons why at the level of UNESCO, we are very committed to promotion of Diamond Open Access, which we have been doing even before the recommendation has been adopted, because it is a way of really ensuring that the scientific knowledge which is published in these different articles and journals is accessible to all, but also that the scientific knowledge needs to be published and available can be published in an equitable way. For us, Diamond Open Access model is also extremely important because it allows more visibility to the knowledge that is produced in regions which are less prominent in some other ways of scientific publishing. And that knowledge, usually coming from the South or more coming from the South, is more and more important when we again try to tackle some of the issues that we are struggling with, not only at those in the regions of the South, but also in the regions of the North, thinking about our global issues, which are global and actually across the different continents and borders. So one of the things we have done in UNESCO in the context of the implementation of the recommendation and support for Diamond is to have a look at what is happening at the global level with regards to global open access publishing, and in particular Diamond Open Access. And we've seen that so far only around 12% of publications are actually available in diamond open access. And that is actually even less in sub-Saharan Africa, in Arab states, in Asia and Pacific. We have some 12% of publications which are in diamond globally. Latin America, of course, has 40% of their publications in diamond. But as I said, sub-Saharan Africa, Arab states, Asian Pacific, all of them, most of their publications are still in gold open access, followed by hybrid, and then only followed by diamond. So there is a lot of capacity, not only in Europe, of course, but also in these other regions when it comes to diamond open access. And it is important that the Diamond Capacity Hub, which is now being launched in Europe, also in some way reflects on what is happening in other regions and also presents some tools that can be shared across regions as well. We really are looking into this European Diamond Capacity Hub as a good connector to what is happening in other regions, and are hoping that there will be initiatives, actions, and tools that will be developed also with other regions and that will also be useful for other regions, and vice versa, that it will also build on what is happening in other regions and the good practices that other regions have already developed in this area. Now going back to the Diamond Open Access Alliance, which, as Lydia was saying, was one of the results of the Toluca Diamond Open Access Summit. What we've done in UNESCO is that we have actually, listening to the voices from the community, Diamond Open Access community from around the world, we've launched a global survey on how people see Diamond Open Access, how does the community see Diamond Open Access, what are the key issues that they see, and how would they like to see a possible Diamond Alliance structured, governed, what would be the vision for it. We are currently still looking into the different results that we are receiving. I think you've heard a presentation on the current results from the survey yesterday, if I understand correctly. But what we are really trying to understand is, what does the community need in terms of global federation of Diamond Open Access actors or global networking? We have to figure out what is the best way of promoting and supporting the community and raising the visibility of Diamond Open Access globally. Raising visibility not only in terms of the journals that are present there, their value and their quality, but also as a concept, why Diamond is important and why is it important at all the different levels and across the different scales, national, regional, global, and also institutional. So I'm going to stop here, but just to reiterate our support both to Diamond and also to this European Diamond Capacity Hub. We are here to engage with you in any way you feel that is important. In the context of the UNESCO recommendation on open science, our member states need to report back to UNESCO this year on the status of implementation of the recommendation. And I do hope that this idea around Diamond, we will be receiving it from different countries in their reports, so that when we do the analysis of the reports, we can also showcase how important it is when it comes to the actual implementation of the recommendation. I'm going to stop here, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that you have. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this for the UNESCO presentation and for your commitment to Diamond Open Access. We are very happy to be able to count on this very effective positioning from UNESCO, and we look forward to more cooperation with you. So we have heard, as you've heard so far, different perspectives: European, global, national. Let's take a few moments for a first set of questions or comments or worries that you may have. We have a couple of microphones in the room. So if you would like, please share your comments or suggestions We are very open to hear the community speaking. If not, maybe I will ask while you think your questions. Maybe I will ask with Claire. If I may ask you a question, Claire, because ANR is really very engaged in Diamond Open Access. So what would you like to see, for example, in 5 years' time? What would be your ideal situation?
Well, it's not so easy to draw the landscape in 5 years, but I think that, as Javier mentioned, the scientific community does not fully use open access, and so it's really increasing. It's a lot different when you consider different research communities, but I would say that it would be an obvious issue for all scientists, whatever the research field is, and that would have a very clear picture of the biodiversity of the various models that would be used. I'm sure in 5 years we will see more clearly what are the models that are the most useful for the scientists, and probably it might be different from one scientific field to another one. But I think the important thing would be that it would be a very obvious issue for every scientist.
Thank you. May I ask the same question to Michael or Anna from different perspectives? What would be your dream in 5 years' time, for example? How would you have liked to advance Diamond Open Access?
If I may start, Anna?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to have many more options for scholarly publishing. So to have a much more diversified ecosystem of open access publishing. This is what I also mentioned about, I think I used the word balanced, a more balanced scholarly communication system, a system which is indeed truly open and transparent, and also have these attributes of being equitable and fair, but also sustainable. But I think the vision doesn't come only in terms of the publishing system. It comes together with also changes, as I said, in research assessment. It comes with changes that are of a cultural nature. It's really a matter also of culture change. And it comes with the capacities that are needed in terms of ease of use for the research communities and for the research institutions in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of developing skills. So this is the vision we're working towards. We work on several fronts, and I think they really need to come together. And we see that. We see that on all these fronts, activities are accelerating, and we have supporters from not only from Europe, but indeed from across the world.
Thank you, Michael. And Anna, just in relation to this question, from your bird's perspective, from all nations, and the access to science recognized as right, what can we kind of have on horizon to look forward and to try and define actions that go towards that goal more specifically?
Well, I really truly think that if you look at the Open Science Recommendation, it really is a visionary document. And it does set the actions that are inspirational in a way, but it really does set where we want to go. These are the things that we should be doing. So acceleration just of the implementation of this recommendation, the notions which are in there, the values which are in there, and that can be further integrated both within the research community itself and then also the decision-making community that accompanies research would be great. And if that can also further extend to the decision-making community, that would be fantastic as well. Again, I was saying before, we live in a time that is quite special. It is very complex, both in terms of geopolitical context, technological advancement, access to science and openness of science, fairness in access and fairness in development of science is really important, and it really will shape the future that we're going to have. So insisting, in a way, continuing to insist on the importance of open science and openness, I think it's going to be very important for our community. But I do agree also with Michael, it has to come accompanied with this cultural shift, transformations, and they will only be possible where the research assessment is reformed as well. Otherwise, it is extremely difficult for the different actors in the current system to actually embrace this change. So I think that's definitely something to work on in the coming years.
Are there any other questions from the floor? I don't see any hands raised, but maybe everybody wants a coffee. I just would like to say thank you very much to all of you. I think you have all raised a very nice and comprehensive landscape of where we are now. I believe that this cultural change is very necessary, and it has to be produced as we reform different policy initiatives, not only directly on the publishing, but as we have heard from the research assessment, importantly. We need to do that together in this community, but also, as I said at the beginning, and Javier said it, researchers, that's our target audience, they need to understand what we are doing so we can really, really progress in that. And with this, we close this first session. Thank you very much to all, and I'll see you at 12:20. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Claro, sí. Y no me has hecho anfitrión ni nada, ¿no?
No. ¿Tienes batería, mano?
Vale, estoy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Katrina.
So I'm going to try and share my screen now, just as it was just stated in the chat. Just one
I've
second.
already tried and it works, but anyway.
Mhm. Okay, great. Just one second. So you should see my slides now, and now
Yeah,
I'm changing to presentation mode. Is this presentation mode now?
not yet.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. Okay, then I have to change that. Just a second.
I think first you try to present and then you share only after.
So now it should work, right?
Yeah, perfect.
And can I also click this forward? Yeah, okay, it should work. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. I think it will take maybe additional 10 minutes or so because they are in the coffee break.
Yeah, and I think it took a little longer, the first part. So yeah.
Yeah,
Probably.
so I will switch off the camera and the mic.
Me too.
Maybe in a while.
See you, bye.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Heidi, can we make a test with you? Can you share your screen? Because we have a problem with the first speaker in the first session sharing their screen. So if we can make a test with you, that will be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we already tried, both me and Katerina, and it works well. So we are good to go.
Perfect. Thanks, Heidi. If you can share your screen, please.
No. No.
Perfect. Perfect, yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, hello. Hola, hola. Bonjour. Hola, hola. Hello, hello. ¿Puedo pedir a los asistentes que tomen sus asientos, por favor? May I ask you to take your seats to resume the session? Thank you very much. We are here to continue with the second session. I hope you all enjoyed the coffee break. I think you have, because it's taking a while to stop your conversations. Don't worry, you will be able to resume them at lunchtime. So to try and keep as much as possible the timing of the program, let's then start. We have now a very good and challenging session at the same time. Very good, because we are going to hear perspectives from the 4 different funding organizations in Europe. Sorry, 5, not 4. And, but 4 of them are online. So I'm sorry, you will have to endure some online participation. We have a presentation from Inmaculada Figueroa, who is here in this building, but in another meeting, so she will join us later on. Oh, Inmaculada, you're here. I thought that, well, I was told that you would be here only later. Okay, excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. Good, good, good. Do you want to join me then on stage? Or you prefer to... You're leaving me alone. Okay. Anyway, let's... we are going to hear the online contributions one by one, as we have done earlier. But then for the discussion session, we will have all the presenters together on the screen as well, together with Inmaculada, of course. Let's start with the perspective from the German Research Foundation, if ready, online. It's Secretary General Heide Arens. Hi, Heide, good morning. Thank you very much for being here with us. So, Heide, please, tell us all about the DFG input on Diamond Open Access.
Yes, thank you very much, Lydia, dear colleagues. Thank you so much for the invitation and also the possibility to join via Zoom. I couldn't make it due to other appointments here, but it is really a pleasure for me to participate in today's public launch of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. And so the DFG is one of the signatories of the Action Plan for Diamond Open Access, and therefore we are very delighted to observe such dynamic progress in the field, partly due to organizations and projects at the European level, such as Science Europe, Coalition S, Au Pairs, Diamas, or Craft Open Access. And so also from our point of view, and I think we all share the same view, Diamond Open Access offers a significant opportunity to enhance sovereignty in research communities, but it also has challenges such like fake publications, the use of AI, and issues like science tracking, and not to speak about a kind of backlash with regard to research security, but I don't want to leave this, to tackle this in this talk today. So the DFG is not only the largest public funder of research in Germany, but we are also the central self-governing organization for research in Germany. We are representing all disciplines. And as a funder of research and infrastructure projects for many years, we are having supported and still support the establishment and the deployment of infrastructures for open access journals, for open access repositories, and open access book publishing platforms through funding programs of infrastructures for scholarly publishing. And additionally, on the other hand, we support research institutions in covering APCs and calls for open access transition agreements within the institutions through our program Open Access Publishing course. So meanwhile, 80% of DFG funded publications are openly accessible, and I think this is really a good success so far. And beyond our funding work, we have been involved in strategic discussions and other activities relating to open access publishing for some time, and we are also plan to continue and do this way. Last year, for example, our Senate held an in-depth discussion on open access, and the Alliance of German Science Organizations commented on the topic on the occasion of a study that we have commissioned on publicly funded science-led open access services in Germany. And from this engagement, a number of key challenges emerged with regard to non-commercial and science-led or science-owned publication infrastructures, such as the Diamond Capacity Hub or Open Research Europe. And so the challenges I would like to briefly outline could be seen as suggestions also for their work. So first of all, there's a serious need for sustainable long-term financing models that not only ensure continued operation, but they also allow innovative further development of publication services. And so it's very important. Diamond Open Access will not be able to compete with profit-oriented publishers in the long run without sustainable funding options. And so I know that politicians don't like to hear talking about funding in the first instance, but it's a very important precondition for the success in this field. Secondly, the attractiveness of publication offerings has to be increased, and they need to be better anchored in the various communities. Ultimately, publishers can only gain scientific reputation through high quality contributions. This was also a wide topic in the Senate discussion we had last year. And the aspect of quality assurance, therefore, also plays an important role in this context. That was mentioned also in the discussion we heard before. Also kind of assessment and reputation. So scientists need to gain reputation in publishing in open access journals. And the third point is that we have to avoid redundancies and to promote the development of a truly cooperative system of non-commercial publication infrastructures. And therefore the question arises as how to effective coordination processes can be established between the different actors on different levels that are involved. And taking the rather recent debate on shared infrastructure services and serious, I would assume that in many cases, coordination needs to be complemented by reliable agreements on shared tasks in Diamond Open Access publishing. And working on such agreements, however, will require clever solutions to overcome institutional self-interest. And so this is very important, not least since success criteria and mechanisms to avoid redundancies are still missing, as the Alliance of German Science Organizations pointed out in May of last year. And finally, I would like to emphasize a specific aspect of the open access debate. It's a very specific topic, but also very important with regard to different disciplines. As part of last year's discussion of the DFG Senate, it has addressed the issue of image rights. The acquisition of licenses for the use of images in open access publication is often costly if right holders give their permission at all. And so it is not uncommon for images to be explicitly excluded from open licensing. And therefore, humanities disciplines in particular, such as art history, they suffer considerable disadvantages in this regard. And it is a question of equity in publishing to facilitate the use of image material in open access publications. And projects operating in the Diamond Open Access context are called upon to address this issue. So we would be happy with you if you always keep this in mind. So with the Diamond Capacity Hub is intended to promote and coordinate Diamond Open Access within a European framework. The DFG has issued a call to establish a national Diamond Open Access Service Center last year in December, or we have launched the call earlier, but the decision was made in December. And so the center will provide numerous services, including technical, workflow-related basic services for publishing articles and books, support for existing publication outlets, for networking, and for building a registry for Diamond Open Access, and also promoting innovation in the sector. And so with this funding, we aim to support a nonprofit and scholar-led system of disciplinary publication infrastructures that meet the high quality and specific needs of various research communities. And so in December, the CEDEWA consortium received a grant to establish the service center to support and collaborate with existing Diamond Open Access publishing venues in Germany, and also to network with the Diamond Capacity Hub and the Global Federation. And I extend my congratulations to the colleagues in establishing this national node. Further information will be available soon, but as far as I know, Nanette Rissa-Tipka is also on site in Madrid, and so maybe she will have the chance to give you more information during the workshops. And acting as a national capacity center, we expect CEDOA to create synergies with the Diamond Capacity Hub. So continuous coordination between the Diamond Capacity Hub and capacity centers that are already existing or are yet to be established is, from our point of view, very important in order to avoid duplication of work and also to implement a sensible division of labor. This is always a tricky question. Although we always share the same goal, it's always a difficult question. And so, as mentioned earlier, reliable agreements between partners on shared duties are required for this as well. Discussions on the expansion of Open Research Europe by 2026 are also part of this field, and we support this initiative. But we will need to determine how to enable our participation, because we are an association under private law and we don't want to jeopardize our non-profit status. So we have to address some questions, but of course we already signed the letter of intent. So it's a good sign, I think. If Open Research Europe is to become a success story, it needs a coherent concept for addressing and integrating scientific communities, a point that was also raised by the Alliance of German Science Organizations in its statement. And so far, a lack of scalability and sustainability, along with insufficient attractiveness to scholars and scientists, has hindered many Diamond Open Access journals. And so we think that these challenges will also have to be addressed in the context of Open Research Europe from our perspective. The European Capacity Hub will play a vital role in advising on standards for the Diamond Open Access, and also in prioritizing quality and operational criteria on technical, on procedural, and on content levels. So the Diamond Capacity Hub will succeed from our point of view if it enables an efficient, user-friendly, and state-of-the-art publication infrastructure tailored to the needs of scholars and scientists, which is also able to build up high reputation in the scientific community. So we wish the Diamond Capacity Hub every success, and we look forward to close interaction through our National Service Center for Diamond Open Access. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Heide. Please stay online for the discussion after the other presentations. Let me now welcome Katharina Rieck from the Austrian Research Foundation. I hope she is ready, connected.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. And I would also like to share my slides.
Yes, we can see the slides, but we can't see you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, now we see you, but not the slides. So at some point we will get to yeah. Now we see both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Katharina Rieck. I'm the Open Science Manager at the FWF, the Austrian Science Fund, and have been in this position for more than 10 years now. It's a great honor to speak here and present to you the FWF's perspective on Diamond Open Access. Just quickly, who is the FWF? We are the basic research funder in Austria, so we are independent, publicly financed, the national funding agency for basic research. We do fund all disciplines from natural sciences, life sciences, social sciences and humanities to social sciences and humanities. We only have reviewers from abroad because we are quite a small country, And as you can see here on the right-hand side of the slide, we have an annual budget of around 350 million euros. At least that was the numbers for 2023. Overall, the FWF accounts for 12% of all the publications resulting from Austria. And with saying that, these 12%, these 12% or all publications resulting from FWF projects, almost all of them are open access. We monitor the open access compliance rate since 2015, and we see that in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, 5 years, we really see that almost all of the publications are open access, which is probably also because of our initiatives that we started quite early regarding open access. And this brings me to looking a bit more into our open access policy, and there specifically into Diamond Open Access and the initiatives that we already started and developed regarding Diamond Open Access. You'll find here some milestones. First, in 2000, we started the funding of the first open access articles. In 2003, we were one of the first signatories of the Berlin Declaration, and a year after that, we launched our first open access policy to publications. Back then, it was a strong recommendation, but it turned into a requirement in 2008. In 2009, we had one of the first OA book funding programs, providing grants for open access book publications, and this program actually still exists and is quite successful in supporting open access to books. Since 2011, so more than 10 years, for more than 10 years now, we fund Diamond Open Access and open access infrastructures. I'll talk about this in a minute, but jump to the next milestone before that. Because in 2013, so this is now also more than 10 years ago, we had our first open access journal funding initiative. And this initiative was dedicated to fund, it can be viewed as micro grants for high quality open access journals in the social sciences and humanities. These were grants of 50,000 euros per journal, and in the end, we supported 8 open access journals. Colleagues and we then wrote a report on the information that we received from these PIs after the projects ended and after the grants ended. We asked them, what were your greatest obstacles when you built up this new journal or when you further developed your open access journal? And it was quite interesting to see that they mentioned 5 points. They mentioned, on the one hand, it was challenging, the peer review was challenging. The peer review was more time-consuming and more laborious than initially expected. They also told us that there were some structural problems, that the distribution of tasks among the editors and finding a notable editor was challenging. Third, which is quite interesting, is the topic of submissions. Since some of the journals were new, it was initially quite difficult to find contributors. That had to do also with marketing, because if there is a journal that is not familiar in the community, if there's no marketing, then it's difficult to attract authors. That's why marketing and information activities had to be established to make sure that there are authors willing to publish in this new journal or on the new platform. And getting indexed in relevant databases was also something that was mentioned by these journal editors or the PIs of these grants. I have to say, all of these journals still exist and they are Diamond Open Access journals. So quite early on, we started with this initiative, which led to these 8 Diamond Open Access journals. Further in the timeline, in 2021, we launched our Plan S compliant open access policy. That means all publications resulting from FWF projects have to be immediately open access with a CC BY license. And to support researchers in being compliant with the open access policy, but also to support journal editors and media owners, we started back in 2021 a dedicated program to support the to have funding for the establishment or modernization of scientific or academic journals with a lump sum of a grant of up to 50,000 euros. As I said, the target group was all media owners operating in Austria, and the aim was to meet the minimum technical requirements for publication formats of Plan S, of Coalition S. This program ended in 2024. The reason for that is that we did not get a lot of applications, and we only funded 4 journals in this time period until 2024. That's why we ended this program. But we are now looking into other innovative publication formats, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. And the last one, the last big milestone when it comes also to Diamond Open Access, is our Open Access block grant, and I'm also going to talk about this in a minute. What you can see here now is our open access support mechanisms for our open access policy. And one of the key pillars is Diamond Open Access. We have the Open Access block grant, we have support for Diamond Open Access, support for open science infrastructures, and we have this dedicated open access book program. So let's have a look at Diamond Open Access and open science infrastructures a bit more. On an annual basis, we support Diamond Open Access journals and platforms, and also open science infrastructures. You can find all this information online because we publish all the data and all the costs that we provide online. So this is the Open Library of Humanities, SciPost, Directory of Open Access Journals, EuroPubMed Central, Archive, OAPEN, Scope 3, ORCID, Open Access Switchboard. And in the future, and this was also mentioned by previous speakers, we are also one of the funders that now signed the Statement of Intent on Open Research Europe. So together with 9 other organizations, we are now looking into how we could collaboratively and collectively support ORE in the future. You can find this Statement of Intent, as also was already mentioned, on Zenodo. There is a dedicated Open Research Europe interest group community on Zenodo. I have to say this interest group is a very open group. So if you are an organization, a research performing organization or a research funder, please, and you are interested in collectively supporting ORE in the future, we would be happy to have conversations with you. Going back to the different support mechanisms. Last but not least, when it comes to Diamond Open Access, we also have the Open Access Block Grant. The Open Access Block Grant is granted once a year to Austrian research institutions to support the funding of open access publications resulting entirely or in part from FWF-funded projects. The block grant replaced the peer-reviewed publications program on January 1st, 2024. So before we had the block grant, there was for many, many years the program peer-reviewed publications, and this was our tool to support open access. But we saw in the last years that we needed to give this an update, and we changed this into a block grant. And these are now the eligible costs that can be covered via the block grant. On the one hand, this is gold open access journals, but then you already see mentioned here in the second bullet point, Diamond Open Access platform and an alternative open access publishing platforms. Again, always if the publication is published immediately with a CC BY license. And I also would like to highlight the third point, which is currently stating that the block grants can also be used for transformative agreements. However, this will change in the future, and this is already mentioned in the last sentence here, because funding for transformative agreements negotiated before the end of 2024 is only available until December 31st, 2027. That means from 2028 onwards, the block grant cannot be used for transformative agreements anymore. Let me come to my last slide, our learnings and challenges to overcome. Some of these things have also already been mentioned by other speakers. One of the challenges is getting from initial support to sustainable long-term funding mechanisms. And we see one of the important things about, or the important possibilities that are now there with the EDCH is that there are more than just one stakeholder group involved, that because different stakeholders need to be involved to come from this initial support to a long-term funding strategy. We need collective action and pooling of funds to also make sure that we reduce the free riding problem that we see. What Diamond Open Access can be, and that was also mentioned already, it's a great alternative. It can be alternative publishing models to diversify the publication market. We already see, if we look at the numbers in the last 10 to 15 years, that open access publishers changed the landscape, and now we are not seeing the oligopoly of some anymore, but we see more and more different publishers. But with Diamond Open Access, this is a great chance to diversify the publication market even more, create new options, new publishing options for researchers, and also enable choices, enable also new choices to publishing. But last point, this all, of course, also has to do with the research assessment system, and this was mentioned also before. What is great, though, is that there are now, with COARA and different organizations, a lot of different organizations working together on changing the system, there is the chance that there is some changes in this field, in this area also. And with that, I would like to I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much again. I wish we, the FWF, and I personally also wish the EDCH a great success and a great start now, starting from today.
Thank you very much, Katarina. Thank you very much. Please stay online if you can. Thank you for this very comprehensive overview of the FWF actions over the years and the commitment which are indeed now seeing its roots. Let's continue with now a perspective from Portugal. We have our colleague João Moreira connected online, hopefully. He is from the Portuguese Foundation for Science and Technology, and he will also run through the initiatives at the Portuguese level. If we can see João.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah, we can hear
Hi,
you.
Lydia. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, colleagues. It's a great pleasure to present today, although Professor Francisco was the one that was aimed to present. He had a health issue and is okay now, but is not in conditions to present, so he asked me to do so. So I would like the others to give you a presentation on what we have been doing and the benefits we see in working with the European Diamond Capacity Hub. Let me just say a few words about FECYT. It is the main funder in Portugal. It has a budget over €500 million, and we aim nothing less than to establish Portugal as a global reference in research and innovation, and also to ensure that the knowledge generated by research we fund supports and drives social and economic development. Unlike other funders, actually, I think we are probably one of the only funding agencies in the world. We not only have funding instruments, but we also have deliver digital services and infrastructures. And you can see here that we manage the network, we manage the supercomputing, collaboration tools, security services, and also work on the knowledge area, which is the one I work for. And within this knowledge area, we have the open science and science and management programs. This slide depicts the work that we have been doing over 20 years. As you can see, in terms of publications, we work on the 3 routes, the transformative agreements, the Diamond OA, and repositories route. And we also work on research data. We have also a program, a directory of journals and repositories. And non less important is also our national CRIS program that aims to support interoperability between the several systems and to help fair data. So our actions are guided, and we have seen today the importance of this, guided by and inspired by organizations like Science Europe, European Commission, UNESCO, and others. We also are signatories of Plan S, and I'm happy to say that after almost 2 years of work, in the coming weeks we are going to announce our updated version of the open access policy, together with the research data policy as well. In terms of historical context related with Diamond, in Portugal, it started in 2005. It was another organization at that time that put together the Cielo Portuguese node. And later in 2011, we did a survey to editors of scientific journals of Portugal. And in that survey, we had a few questions asking if they were interested in online hosting journal service. And we had a great demand. And based on that, we started to deploy that service that aimed by that time. You recall for sure that there were a few journals circulating in paper, and we aimed to transition those journals to digital. By being digital, they could be open access. It was a condition. And by being online, they could requalify because they had bigger readership, bigger authorship and reviewers, etc. And that's when this program started. In 2016, the government was very pro open science, and this enabled us to set application to develop the Portuguese Diamond Hub, which is named PABIN. And in 2021, we also incorporated the management of Cielo, and we are now actively promoting open science and in those journals, and also promoting interoperability. So this, the national initiative, Diamond Initiative, aims to promote best practices in science publishing among national scientific journals and their editorial teams. It is a project that counts with the University of Minho, and you can see some figures. The first service is OJS related. We have 39 journals, and then we have 61 in Cielo. But there are some other journals that are hosted locally by organizations that we also aggregate and we also help. So this PABIN works not only on the digital services component, but also addresses things like training support and dissemination, open science good practices, science management good practices, etc. So this shows the path that we have been following, from digital transition, open access, and journal qualification to the promotion of interoperability and open science. And now the next step is to strengthen Diamond OA and reinforce international alignment. So with regards to that, I present you 7 reasons why joining EDCH is the next natural step for Diamond and Pubin. Some of them were already mentioned by the other speakers, but if the first one is related to visibility and recognition. If Pubin, the national node, joins a bigger initiative, we increase the visibility and recognition of our national initiative. It's easier to expand and grow, also because we don't have to have journals of all disciplines. This can be complementary. If more and more countries and organizations care about the diamond publishing, and including the European Commission with all that we are also signatories, then researchers can change their perception, and EDCH can encourage a more inclusive and equitable research culture. The fourth is related to coordination and alignment, and there's no need for much explanation with regards to this one, as sustainability and support, because we'll not need to do all the tools and services. This will be a shared and distributed work, and it makes things much easier, same as for capacity building and training, and also infrastructures and technical support. Just the last slide shows the roadmap perspectives, and this is the open science pillars through the lens of Diamond. In terms of policies, it's already covered, both in the current and the future policy. There's something that was mentioned by the other speakers. It's about the research assessment to reward all forms of contribution. Then to change the way scientific communication is done, and to rethink the services to support upstream processes like preprint or preprint review, etc. Again, to think the support of new platforms. We didn't sign the Barcelona Declaration. We intend to, and we are supporting many organizations like the Austrian Foundation, and we are working also on the monitoring components, and we have been funding this Diamond initiative in Portugal. Of course, we stop where the scale stops. We don't fund editorial work. We fund infrastructures and training, everything that is common and has a scale. And basically, this is it, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, João. Also, excellent presentation on the Portuguese initiatives, and very happy that you see the value already on the European Diamond Capacity Hub. We look forward to meet the expectations. And now it's my great pleasure to move back to the room, physical, and welcome Inmaculada Figueroa from the Spanish Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities. So, Inmaculada, the floor is yours.
So first of all, thank you for inviting us to be here. It's a pleasure being here, supporting FECYT in this initiative and the organization of this event from the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities. It is a pleasure to be here in the launch of the European Diamond Capacity Hub that we recognized like an important initiative in order to progress with the expectation that all of us have in the development and deployment of the open access publications. My presentation, ¿cómo paso? Aquí? Yes. We are not to enter in the different initiatives. I am representing here the ministry. The ministry is the body that coordinates the activities in Spain, but there are a lot of other institutions and actors that are part of all the activity that we are doing in terms of open access. We have several funding agencies, spread covering different aspects. FECYT is one of them, but also the Spanish State Agency for Research, the Instituto de Salud Carlos III, that is the agency that it is dealing with all the aspects in relation to health. The Innovation Agency, that is also covering some aspects. And of course, part of all the activities that we are developing in relation to open access and open science are in hands of our research performance organizations. With this view, with this perspective, the ministry is coordinating the activities in Spain in order to develop and implement all these activities related with open science and open access. In particular, our intention is that try to converge and be integral in whatever we are trying to promote. We know that open access and open science, it is in the backbone of all the activities related with research and innovation. In this sense, and talking about the European Diamond Capacity Hub like an infrastructure, I would like to tell you that Spain is strongly linked and strongly supporting all the activities in relation with the participation in research infrastructures, international research infrastructures, and also international organization for research. I am also only talking about in this slide about figures relating to this European infrastructure. After that, we have a lot of other resources that we use for the development of this infrastructure at national level. That is not included here. But for giving you an idea of the importance for Spain of the participation in these research infrastructures, in which, in some way, we hope that the European Diamond Capacity Hub could be one of these, not for research, but for support to the researchers. Spain is participating in 19 international organizations and 45 S3 infrastructures, landmarks, and projects. Only from the ministry, because these figures are only from the ministry, we are funding with more than 160 million euros in the budget of 2024, more than 160 million euros just for the contributions to this big organization. We also use the structural funds also to support the funding of this organization, and in this sense, for the period 21-27, we have an allocation of more than close to 200 million euros in structural funds for developing these research infrastructures. And also, we have used the recovery and resilience plan to this purpose, and we have in 2023, and during this period till the end of 25, we are going to spend 45 million euros for this purpose coming from this recovery plan. We are convinced that it is very important also because it is a way to internationalize our system of science, technology, and innovation of Spain. But also because we are convinced that we have to build something integral, an integral system in Europe, and as such is recognized also in the European policy strategy, agenda, in which all these actions are part of the activities that we are going to develop and we are developing together in Europe in order to make this European research area stronger with the participation of all the different elements. And we realize that we have to work together. This should be integral. We realize that we are working in digital infrastructure, that we are working on research infrastructure, that we are working in open science, and all of them are related. And we recognize that the only way to progress and to build this clear European research area is to link all of them. Well, this is just giving you some idea of the need for the rationalization and the strong work that we do to work with all our partners in Europe in order to go ahead with these developments. And the same we have to do with the deployment of the open access broadly at European level. Talking about the situation in Spain, the framework of the Spain in terms of legal structure and also the framework of the document that are establishing what are the rules that we have decided to give us in order to promote this activity in open access. I can tell you that we work well aligned with European framework programs. And then we have a strategy, a national strategy for science, technology, and innovation that is cover the same period that the framework program from 2021-2027. And then we develop this strategy through the state plans that we divide into parts. And we are now in the second part of the plan, that is the ones that are related to the 24-27. In all of these main documents that are establishing the priority lines for the development of the activity in research and innovation in Europe, open science is included, and all the activities related with open access are part of them and are included. We have a specific, we have also the support of two laws, the law for science, technology, and innovation, and the law for the university system that are also including articles referring the promotion of the open access and are establishing compulsory conditions for the deployment of these activities in relation with open access. And in particular, it is important also to mention here that we have a strategy, a national strategy for open science, that it is the instrument that we are using like the guide to establish the way to deploy the open access in all the different aspects here in Spain. This national strategy for open science has the purpose to strengthening the quality, the transparency, the reproducibility of the scientific activity in Spain, improving dissemination among the scientific community, and also establishing this or promoting this knowledge transfer of the science activity to the society. And it tried to design how Spain are going to respond to the challenges that we are facing here for our scientific community is facing. The ENCA aims to ensure that by 2027, the end of the period of the strategy, the funding, the execution, the communication, and the processes for assessment of the scientific research in Spain incorporate the principles established for open science. This is the aim. The strategy is divided in 4 main axes, dealing with digital infrastructure for open science, fair management of research data, open access to academic literature, incentives, rewards, and training. And they are developing through 17 actions distributed between the different pillars. In particular, for what occupied to us today here, the pillar, or the axis is the axis C, open access to academic literature. And we have established there 5 different tasks or activities that are going to help us to develop this pillar. In particular, you see here that the diversification, the TIC4, that is related to the diversification of mechanisms for publishing research results, supporting a non-commercial model of research outcome communication through complementary alternative dissemination tools to commercial scientific journals, such as research outcome publication platforms, institutional publishing services, and open access repositories, is strongly linked with the activity that you are proposing to develop, with the activity that you are proposing with the European Diamond Capacity Building. And The expected outcomes of this access is the fulfillment of the mandate for immediate open access by default in scientific publication, eliminating access barriers for the entire population. In particular, for the European Diamond Capacity Hub, the initiative is fully aligned with the ENCA, not only with the ENCA, as I told you, also with the rest of the activities that we are developing in terms of infrastructures. We recognize that it's an infrastructure that is created by a proper approach. It's not an infrastructure like the ones that are included in the roadmap of S3 that are bring to the roadmap by the researchers. It has the particularity that the infrastructure is impulsed or promoted by service providers for research support. It is strongly supported by FECYT. FECYT, as I mentioned, is a key player in our system of science, technology and innovation of Spain in the promotion of open science, and they are the ones that are leading the implementation of the different actions that we are contemplating in the strategy. We have established a system in which we work together, led by the Secretary of State of our ministry, and sitting together the directors of the funding agencies, the research performance organization, and all of the stakeholders that has something to say in the issue. We have a body, depending on that it is the responsible for the development of all the activities for the implementation of these actions. The first committee I mentioned that is led by the Secretary of State is the high-level committee in which all the decisions are going to be taken and are going to be taken in a collegiate way and are going to be applied to all the institutions that compose our science technology and innovation system. And then we work in the implementation of all these activities with participation of all of these institutions, but at a more technical level in order to develop and tackle with the challenges that we are having here in Spain. I don't want to end without telling you that for us, as I told you, in this integral approach that I mentioned, I think that we have to make profit of the expenditures that we are doing in all the different activities. We are, all the member states are contributing strongly to open science in very different lines, and I think that we have to find a way that we can use it in a more smart way in order to make profit of that. We don't need to ask for new money for everything that we have to do. We have to have better coordination. We have to have a good knowledge of what we are doing. All of the different initiatives can benefit from one side and the other, and we have to find a way to do it together in the best efficient way. And also, I think that mentioned here, the last point in this, my last slide is EOSC. I think that it is very important. We are talking about federation in the European Open Science Cloud of all these initiatives, and I think that we have to work together in order to do it a reality. We have to work together. We have to avoid to have isolated initiatives running here and there with no connection, and we have to find a way that we can coordinate all of these efforts that are strong efforts that we are putting in place in order to be efficient in the use of the resources, especially in a moment in that it is not easy to find new resources for going ahead with these initiatives. And that's all. Thank you very much, and I'm at your disposal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Inmaculada, for this a great overview. And thank you very much for the sustained commitment of the government of Spain into open science. It's, I think, another excellent example. of the long-term government commitment, and that's highly appreciated by many of us. We have now a few minutes for questions to the panelists. Unfortunately, Heide had to go, but we still have Catarina and Joao, and of course Inmaculada. Do you have any question, comment to what you have heard? Yes, please, at the back of the room. And may you introduce yourself and before you make your question.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the presentations. My name is Nils Stern. I represent the Directory of Open Access Books, and DOAB is indexing peer-reviewed, openly licensed books from around the world, from over 700 publishers. So it's a growing index of, well, we hope to get to 100,000 titles. Yeah? And just to say, just to remind ourselves about that, you know, we're talking about publications. Journals when we talk about Diamond, for many good reasons, I think, but books are increasingly becoming part of the Diamond agenda. We see very many publishers who are interested in, exploring new models and taking on Diamond as well. So, considering the specific needs in publishing, and Heide mentioned, for instance, image rights. I was wondering, also considering bibliodiversity and cultural diversity across Europe, how, if the panelists would have any reflections on how books could be appropriately represented in the EDCH, and also how open infrastructures can support any of those initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Who would like to start about some comments regarding open access publication of books, Diamond open access publication of books?
For me, it's difficult to answer your question. I think that maybe your question is more devoted to the people that are going to discuss afterwards, that are the ones that are the experts on the matter. So I have difficulties to answer you. Sorry.
Maybe
Catarina?
I can. Yes. Yes. Do you want to speak first, Catarina? No, it's okay. I was just going to mention that Johan Horik is for sure in the room, but the Coalition S is preparing the next strategic plan for the next years, and we discussed the possibility of including new types of outputs, and books were one of them, if I'm not wrong. So this will lead funders into working also on books, and probably liaise with an initiative like EDCH to implement and to help, and also OABD, that the initiative you run. I'm sure if I'm pronouncing it the correct way, but anyways, what I wanted to say is that output has been raised and that concern is being thought.
Yeah, just to also say some quick words. I also think this can be actually an opportunity to now think about research outputs, not the journal articles, but also other forms of research output, such as books, and to also think that already in a Diamond framework. So I would encourage now everyone at the EDCH also to think about, how also books could be funded in a Diamond way.
Thank you, Catarina. I don't see for now. One more question. Good.
Just to fill the gap, it's maybe a difficult question to solve, but let me try. It's about infrastructures. We are using free software for all our infrastructures, but we are not talking much about who is developing the software. Most of the times the software is developed outside Europe, outside Spain. And I have the sensation that we need to change the cultural perception we have around this kind of applications that arrive to us for free, but we need to give something in return. So the question for you all, it's the Diamond Capacity Hub a way to fix this and to start creating software from this perspective of sharing and returning to all the good that we get?
Well, I think that it is like that. I think that we have to find a way to recognize also this software and the developers of this software. So I think that the Diamond publication could work in the future in order to also take into account this question.
João, Catarina, any comments?
I was thinking about literacies in the case of this space. And for instance, we make a national contribution for this space. We are allowed to participate in the governing bodies and the technical bodies, and therefore we participate actively in the development of the software. I think using EDCH as a place to concentrate the requirements and contact the software and contribute is a good way, but I would encourage to work in like in centers of expertise. EDCH doesn't have to develop software, but it can concentrate the needs and the requirements and liaise with the entities that are doing so.
Thank you, João. Any last comment, Catarina?
Just to support what João just said, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that for the sake of time, we continue, because now, finally, we are going to hear from Pierre Mounier and Johan Rurik what is ECDH going to do and how it's going to be organized. So please, Johan and Pierre, you are welcome to come to stage.
Oh, it's there. Thank you, Lydia, and thank you for being the moderator of the morning session. It's a lot of work, and you did it in this usual excellent way. And I would also like to thank FECYT, especially Pilar, who invited us here. It's really a pleasure, and Izaskun, of course, as a host. It's really a pleasure to be here in FECYT in this beautiful museum. Really very nicely fit for the occasion. Museum of Science and Technology. So let me start with European Diamond Capacity Hub, the presentation of what we are trying to do. So first of all, I'm going to give a bit of background and talk about the vision and mission, and then Pierre is going to talk about the objectives, the services, the task forces, and the operation, and then I'm going to come back to talk a little bit about governance and to give a last message about what we're really trying to do with a metaphor. As you know, I like metaphors. Background is, this was already mentioned today, something that was really very important, that was for me a game changer in understanding open access in Europe was, and worldwide, was the Open Access Diamond Journal study that was published in March 2021 after an initial call the year before written by Coalition S and Science Europe. Basically, Lydia and I wrote that call. And so a year later, we had the Open Access Diamond Journal study. Many people in this room participated in that with a very important recommendation, which was, I think, original brainchild of Vanessa, I think, the main recommendation, create an Open Access Diamond Capacity Center. Right, that's simple. And basically everything that happened since was as a function of that. So in March 22, another year later, we published the Action Plan for Diamond Open Access with Science Europe, Coalition des Opéras, and the French National Research Agency, with the main goal there as well to create this capacity center for diamond publishing in Europe within 30 months. I haven't calculated it if it's 30 months, but maybe somebody can do this. But here we are. We are now launching this European Diamond Capacity Hub after having received a number of projects and carried out a number of projects that were instrumental in bringing this about, namely the DIAMAS project and the Craftaway projects, which really developed the building blocks of the European Diamond Capacity Hub. So the European Diamond Capacity Hub will really carry forward all the outputs of these two great projects that I had the pleasure of participating in and working with Pierre and a large number of people in this room. For me, this was really, one of the highlights of my career to have been able to have had the honor and the privilege to have been working with such a great team of dedicated people, idealistic people wanting to develop diamond open access in Europe. Okay. So this is where we are. The European Diamond Capacity Hub will bring this forward. Vision is, of course, a strong, coordinated, and sustainable diamond open access publishing ecosystem in Europe, which is also echoed in the European Council conclusions of a couple of years ago. Mission is to support European national institutional and disciplinary diamond open access capacity center in their mission of scholarly publishing. Basically what this means is we are there for you. We are there for the diamond publishers in Europe. We want to serve you. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that you are aligned across Europe, that you can offer the best services possible to your journals so that we all can operate in an aligned manner. So with capacity centers, we really mean diamond publishers, diamond service providers, infrastructures that enable OA journals and book series to create scholarly output. So yes, Niels, we are thinking of you. As you can see, book series, we are talking about scholarly outputs, by which we mean books, reports, and so on. Okay. And this is where I pass the baton to Pierre.
Thank you, Johan. So what are the objectives of the European Diamond Capacity Hub? It's to build a high-quality and sustainable diamond open access scholarly communication infrastructure. So infrastructure is the key word in this sentence, very long sentence, because the idea is to build an infrastructure that supports across the European research area diamond OA publishing. So to implement open access as a standard publication practice, but also open access publication practice that do not charge fees to authors or readers. So that's part of the definition of diamond. But more importantly, and that's the central point, which is led by scholarly communities, meaning that all content-related elements should be controlled by the scholarly community. This is the key point, and this is the core of what defines diamond, in our opinion. So the objective of the EDCH is to build this infrastructure that supports this publication model. More concretely now, what will the EDCH provide to the community, to you, to us? First, a coordination service. It appeared very clearly from the Open Access Journal Diamond study that the Diamond OA landscape was fragmented across Europe, globally, but also across Europe. And we used the metaphor of archipelago that Vanessa proposed to us in this project to represent this fragmentation. So when you have something which is fragmented, the first thing you have to provide to the community is coordination to support exchange of information, alignment of practice, sharing of resource, etc. But more concretely, the EDCH will provide to the community concrete tools and services also to help this coordination, but also to support the operations of OA diamond publishers, service providers, infrastructures, capacity centers. And hopefully, all of this will ensure progressively more and more sustainability for this publication model, this scholarly communication model, in the long term to ensure sustainability of scholarly outputs in this model. Even more concretely, we have set up a list of services that the EDCH is aiming at delivering progressively. And all these tools and services are currently under development in the context of the 2 European projects funded by the European Commission, CraftOE and DIAMAS. The first one, which is already public and finalized, is DOAS, the Diamond Open Access Standard, that provides a framework to ensure quality alignment across the Diamond OA sector on a common basis. And this Diamond Open Access Standard is accompanied by a self-assessment tool that ensures that everyone can self-assess where they are compared to this standard. We will provide a training platform currently under development under the leadership of Open Edition, the national infrastructure in France, that will capture and organize all the training materials and modules in curricula so that everyone can train themselves to improve and to level up to the level of quality that is expected from everyone. There will be a registry and a forum to help the community management of this huge community of Diamond OA publishers, service providers, infrastructures, and capacity centers across the European research area. So all those people, all those organizations are expected to register in the registry and then to join the community in a forum to discuss, because this is a community-led effort. This is by and for the community. So we need to discuss. We have started discussing right now, but of course it will be an ongoing discussion, and the forum will help on that. There will be a Diamond Discovery Hub that will provide an authoritative list of Diamond OA journals based on certain criteria, because everyone needs this list. That's absolutely evident. The funders, the research organizations, the community, the libraries, of course, the publishers themselves, they need this authoritative list of Diamond OA journals. I don't go into the details, but because it's quite obvious. So this is the thing which is currently under development under the leadership of University of Göttingen in the context of the CraftOA project. There will be, and it already exists, we will present that to you this afternoon, a living tool suite, which means a website capturing a lot of articles to help journals improve and being sustained. So that's what we call the living tool suite that captures resources and guidelines for the journals and for the service providers and the publishers. And there will be publishing tools, which are currently under development inside the CraftOA project as well, meaning digital resources, interoperability tools, publishing software enhancements, and add-ons. So I'd like to answer your question more directly, because you asked the question about the digital resources and software. Those software, we know them, basically. So, for example, let's take the example of Open Journal System provided by PKP. There was a mention of DSpace and others. They are all free software, which means that the community is called to participate to the development of those software under the leadership of an organization. So you don't receive the software to be consumed. You use the software, but you also contribute to the software as a free software, as a community effort. So that's very important to understand, and that's what is captured here. So that was, let's say, the operational aspect of the EDCH. And now I will present to you what we call the task forces, meaning the social aspect, the social organization. All organizations related to Diamond OA. So all these publishers, service providers, infrastructures, etc. If they want, they are called and invited to contribute to the EDCH, because this is, once again, a community effort. So if you just have the capacity to use the services and tools, fine. But if you have more capacity to contribute to the EDCH, to share new resources with others in this framework, please contribute and join the EDCH. And join one of the task forces that are presented here on this slide. So there is one on quality alignment led by FECYT, and that aligns with the DOAS and the self-assessment tool. There is one on skills and competencies led by Open Edition and that aligns with the training platform. There is one on community led by Operas that will manage this community, and this afternoon I will present to you our new community manager, so suspense. There is one on tools and technology, and I said already that most of the digital tools which are under development, they are inside the Craft2A project. So the technical board of the Craft2A project is at the moment leading this effort. There is one on diamondization, and Johan is heavily implied in this diamondization effort, so it's still to be developed as a concept and to be implemented. And there is one dedicated to fundraising, and I sincerely thank the three representatives from ANR, CNRS, and Spark Europe. So Zoé Ancion, Suzanne Dumouchel, and Vanessa Prodman to lead this effort to fundraise, to support, and to ensure a better sustainability for the EDCH, but for the diamond OA landscape in general in Europe. So this was my short presentation. Now the last slide from my side before I hand over to Johan. How does it work concretely? This is not the ultimate way all those components will work together, because of course the different organizations in the community, they can use different components the way they want. But let's say, let's consider it as a typical pathway through the different components of the EDCH. First, you are a Diamond OA publisher, or a service provider, or an infrastructure, or a capacity center, at whatever level. So you are considered as a capacity center, and then you are invited to register in the registry, and then access the forum to join the community and start discussing with your peers. Second, you are invited to self-assess, thanks to the self-assessment tool against the DOAS, the Diamond Open Access Standard, to identify where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses. And based on the identification of your weaknesses, then you can start training yourself, having access to additional resources to improve your situation in this particular domain that was identified. Then you register your journals in the Diamond Discovery Hub, you register yourself in the publisher dashboard, and you shine. And your outputs, the contents that you produce, they shine, they are more visible, better recognized, better indexed, better used. And then hopefully, with all of that, you are more sustainable, because funders as well, local, national, institutional, etc., then they have a better incentive to support you because you are of good quality and you are sustainable. So that's the aim of all of these components of the EDCH, working together from and for the community.
Okay, thank you, Pierre. I'm going to say a few last words about governance. So what's the mechanism behind this? How is this going to be supported in terms of governance? Well, first definition, we see ourselves as a collective of organizations that publicly express their intention to support, coordinate, and align Diamond OA publishing in Europe. This means that organizations can support us in various ways, either financially or with in-kind contributions. I'll come back to that in a minute. The principles are the principles that were formulated in the action plan for Diamond Open Access that we launched a few years ago. And the mechanism is that EDCH will not be legally incorporated, it will not be its own legal entity, but it will be fiscally hosted by Operas. And this ensures us with autonomy of funding, operations, and governance. There's 3 levels of governance. I'm not going to bore you with that too much, but the idea is this. So we have supporting members, operational members, and community members. Supporting members are public or not-profit organizations whose legal mission it is to fund and perform research and scholarship. And so basically they support us financially, and since they support us financially, they have a position in the steering committee, the committee that makes the decisions about the directions that the EDCH should go into. This is chaired by Lydia, for which we thank her very much to have taken on that task. And so as you can see, ANR and CNRS have already contributed to this. If your organization wishes to contribute financially, you can also be a member of the steering committee as a supporting member. Then we have operational members, and operational members is really that, operational members. They are in the executive committee. These are organizations that are engaged in aspects of Diamond OA, like Opération, Science Europe, Coalition S, FECYT, Open Edition, and Spark Europe. And those are members who contribute in kind. Simply, they give a portion of their time, or their organization provides the EDCH with a portion of their time, this case for me, for instance, to participate in all the task forces and the services of the EDCH. So basically, operational really means preparing those services, making it work, making it all work, and making it come together. Pierre Mounier and myself will be co-coordinators of that executive committee, and the executive manager will be Heraklitos Soyutsoglu, who is sitting upstairs, so you can't see him, so I should, but he will come down in a minute, I hope. And then the most important part, of course, is the community members, the assembly of Diamond Capacity Centers, publishers, and service providers. Those constitute the core. There is an assembly, and there will be 2 co-chairs chosen who will also have a seat, of course, in the steering committee, so that there is a democratic input into the steering committee as well, in addition to the funders who pay. So that's the plan for the governance. Of course, nothing of this is written in stone. If you have other ideas, please share them with us. But this is the initial plan for the governance that we had in mind. So, to conclude, why Diamond Open Access? Well, I think you know this by now, but it never hurts to repeat it. We want to ensure equity in line with the UNESCO recommendation on open science. Equity, both for authors and readers, by not charging fees. This should be really a public infrastructure. It allows researchers to take back control of scholarly content. I think that's really important. We need to take back control over all content-related elements. It also, I think, we will afford, in good time, research funders to control publication costs. Differently from Gold Open Access, for instance, in Diamond Open Access, there's absolutely no incentive to publish more. As I always say, if I publish an article in my journal, my reputation is on the line, but I have no pressure, no financial pressure to publish. So whether I publish 90 articles a year or 110 articles a year like last year, I do not care. I know that I have done my best and published the best articles that my team validated. And finally, very importantly, this is something that Janne Pöllönen has drawn a lot of attention to. Whereas Gold Open Access journals are a monoculture of expensive English language journals, Diamond is a varied patchwork of languages, cultures, cultural diversity, multilingualism, and that's really what we want. I think it's also important for the funders to realize that, because funders, national funders in Europe, are specifically responsible for their own cultural diversity. I mean, if Croatian funders or Finnish funders are not going to respectively support Croatian and Finnish publications, who is going to do it? Nobody else. And it's the same for French, it's the same for German. I think we need to honor that diversity and really realize that this is what we need to do to bring science forward. Of course, English is important, but it's not the only game in town. We really need to make sure that all research outputs are available and well supported going forward. Okay, I'm going to finish by maybe a surprising image. As I said, I was going to give you a metaphor. And as always with metaphors, I have to be careful not to go too far. So, metaphor is that of a basketball court. All over the world, as you know, there are basketball courts that cities put at the disposal of the local communities, and everybody can come and play. So, what does that mean? It means, in fact, that all basketball courts have the same size. You come to play with the same rules. But of course, not all teams are the same. The teams are diverse. They play in their own language. They have more or less skills to do so. But it's a variety of games, right? And basically, I see what we are doing as something very similar. We want to put at the disposal of the research community basketball courts, namely an infrastructure, a public infrastructure that everybody can use, that doesn't cost money, that everybody can use, but where you come to play with the same rules that everybody plays. So the rules are DOAS. DOAS is part of the rules. But once you obey the rules, you can do within those confines of those rules, you can do what you want, right? You put the infrastructure at the disposal, people come and play. And for me, basically, every published article is the result, is a play, is a finished play. It's the recording of a play, if you like. You have a team of editors, of reviewers, of authors who come together and who play around with the ball, and then you have the recording ready, and that's the article. And it doesn't matter how the game is played, as long as it is played according to the rules. And those are the results, those are the research results. So that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that every university has their own basketball court, and every research center has their own basketball court in terms of Diamond Open Access, allowing researchers in the communities to play editor. That's how I feel, for instance, with the Open Library of Humanities. The Open Library of Humanities puts at my disposal an entire infrastructure that allows me to publish a journal without ever paying a cent. In the same way that you go to the basketball court, you bring your ball, you don't pay a cent, right? You just have to know the rules. You have to bring your friends, and you play. And for me, that's what the Open Library of Humanities gives me, and that's, I think, what everybody should, every editor in the world should have, this opportunity to publish a journal without having to think about money, without having to think, just thinking about, you know, the quality of the outputs that you put out and bringing together your friends to make that article that has been given to you by somebody who trusts you, to make that article the best article that you can do as an editor. That's the game. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johan and Pierre. We are, I think, too late, but maybe we can ask for one question or one comment. First of all, congratulations. I don't know if you want to sit down. It depends on the number of questions, but I think it's okay if you... I know, I'm sorry, my bad in chairing this session. Time went by, but all the speakers had very interesting points to make. Any comments or questions from the floor? No? Okay. If not, maybe just a word from myself to close this morning. And thank you all for your participation, speakers for their excellent presentations. Pierre, Johan, surely we will work more together very intensely in the coming months. So thank you very much for all the effort you've put into this. We know it comes from many years before today, but I think that today is a very nice culmination of a lot of work and dialogue, sometimes very difficult dialogue of all of us together. We look forward to strengthening our collaboration. You have heard the expectations from some of the European partners. I'm sure that others have other expectations, and we will make sure that we will take them into account for that. Maybe can I call on stage the main organizers of this event, Pilar from FECYT, in representation of FECYT, and also Immaculada, to thank you for the great support you give to open access. Please join me in thanking their efforts with a big applause. So thank you, Johan and Pierre and Victoria and Heraklitos and Pilar for putting the program together. Also thank you, the FECYT, for hosting it. Great host. Please give our regards to Izaskun and our thanks from PART. And on the name of Science Europe, of course, we can bring you from Belgium a good, nice box of Belgian chocolates. And the same from the ministry. Please keep your efforts on Diamond Open Access. we wanted to sweeten your efforts in all this community building that we are doing together. So thank you very much. Thank you all. And now let's go and enjoy lunch. Thank you.